Hello everyone, welcome to HBWTV. I'm Jochin, your host for today. Joining us here from my left, we have Mr. Nazir, who is the founder of H Healthcare Berhad, following by Dr. Rohan, who is an endocrinologist from India, Dr. Victor T, who is the chairman of H Healthcare Group, and Dr. Sree, who is a doctor certified in clinical wound care. So we are here to talk about a system, ClinicJet, which is founded by Dr. Rohan. Thanks for joining us, Dr. Rohan.
Welcome. So ClinicJet.com is an online software which basically allows patients to collate all of their data, whichever hospital they go to, whichever doctor they go to, their prescriptions, their lab reports, and all of their data which they require for their day-to-day clinical functionality into one place. And it's been there for nearly about 4 years now, founded in India, Mumbai, and we currently are running multiple clinics across Africa and in India, and now looking forward to establishing our base in Asia Pacific region. And that's basically what we do. And it's a group of people who are motivated to bring healthcare using artificial intelligence and the latest generation of machine learning to provide better statistics, better tools for doctors to give patients that quality and level of healthcare that they deserve. That's what ClinicJet does, and that's what we want to bring forward and have people use more and more.
Okay, great. So I have some questions to Dr. Rohan. What is the specialty about your ClinicJet?
So the specialty is up till now, all the softwares that were created were usually made by people who were not doctors. There were some engineers who got together, decided to fix one problem. But as you see, medicine is multifactorial. There are so many different factors that come into play. For example, right from the time the patient comes into the clinic to the time the patient goes out, and even beyond that when the patient goes home. So many of the softwares that are there, they address one problem. The second problem is that patients usually do not see one doctor. They have 3 or 4 doctors. Multiple doctors, multiple hospitals, multiple clinics. So the current system is currently very fragmented. So our system has been designed in such a way that it is completely flexible, where the patient is floating, the doctor is floating, the clinic is floating, and the hospitals are floating, and all of them are centered around one unique thing which we have is called the MPR, and we call it the Master Patient Record. The MPR number identifies the patient across the system, no matter which doctor, which laboratory, or which hospital he goes to, and brings all his data into that one place.
Yes, thank you very much, doctor. So basically, you are trying to say that when the patient or the doctor using this system, there will be a way for them to synchronize all the report in a secured file where they can view it from any places, and if they wanted to transfer the data to their selected medical centers or clinics or hospitals or even doctor, they can even do that.
Yes. So as per international law, and I'm sure even Malaysia and many of the other countries are signatories to that law. It's a consensus between different countries. The ultimate owner of the patient's record is the patient itself. So he is the owner of his own records. That's what international law actually dictates. So he should have the right who can see his records, who can access his records, because it's his personal information. So he can, if he decides that he wants another doctor to see it, he has an authority to allow access to that doctor.
So what's the difference between keeping the medical records in manual, which is the older methods, comparing to the ClinicJet? So if I have assets of what I call the clinical records by myself, prescriptions, medical records, health screening records, and all, so I can have all of them in together in one folder, comparing to your ClinicJet systems. Yes.
If I was to explain it, the difference could be as simple as writing a check and using an ATM card. You write something in a piece of paper, then it goes to the bank, then it follows the transaction process, then it takes a longer period of time. Plus the human manpower that is required to go through that data and then come to a conclusion that this patient has got this problem, multiple issues. When you have everything online, when you have everything in the cloud, the data that is being given to the consultant for the patient's benefit is instantaneous. For example, if I am consulting a patient and if I know this patient is diabetic, but if the patient has shared the records with me and I see that he's got some other condition, I know immediately through the system that there are some drugs I cannot give him. So that information is on the spot at that particular point of time.
Dr. Victor D, any questions from your side?
Is that just a cumulative data collection, or is it more than that? Meaning, because you're talking about artificial intelligence, if it is just a cumulative data, then we still have to look out for the important things. But what is the intelligence part in your data record?
So the more amount of data that comes into the system adds more intelligence to the system. For example, if you have a patient who has got a cardiac disease, and if the patient's data suggests that he's getting a little bit of pedal edema, or if the doctor is typing inside and saying the patient came today with swelling in the feet, or if there was puffiness of face, that would actually add to the machine learning part of it. So the machine could actually tell you in future whether the patient has got a higher chance of getting cardiac failure or not, whether this patient has got, if he's diabetic, if he's got multifactorial disease, what are the chances of him developing. So it can flag patients based on their severity, because one of the biggest complications could be hospitalizations for heart failure. So these predictive analysis that come will
come later.
It will come later, because
so you are at the first phase where you are collecting data.
Yes.
And then from there, the interpretation of data, and then with the collection of data and interpretation, then the machine will be able to
absolutely, because
act more intelligent.
The machine cannot have its own intelligence. It has to be fed, and that comes from data from multiple sources. So once that data starts getting into the system, then the machines are able to predict and give you a proper diagnostic tool. It's not a replacement for a doctor's skill and acumen or his own thinking. Nothing can replace that. A doctor's thinking process, a doctor's thought process, and everything is all as per it is. The machine just helps you.
Okay. Okay.
Dr. Sree, would you wrap up the last question?
Okay. Welcome to Malaysia, Dr. Rohan.
Thank you, Dr. Sree.
Currently, our system, we have multiple systems in our clinic, and information are stored in the hard disk. And when a doctor moves out of his clinic, he's not able to access any of the information. Even if the doctor has several clinics, if the patient visits the clinic 1, and then later visits clinic 2 or 3, the doctor who is there is not able to access any information. But I understand that in your system, the information is stored in the cloud. Okay, so that any doctor can access information from wherever they are. But current issue is, how safe is the information stored in the cloud?
Right, good. I'm really happy that you asked me this question. We take our data very, very seriously, and we use military-grade encryption. We use HIPAA-compliant servers. We also are very compliant with government issues. For example, there are many governments which require the data to be present in the country itself. Many countries have restrictions on medical data being sent out of the country. So we work with governments to make sure that the data remains within the country itself. Now, when you ask me about the question about the multifunctionality, the term that is used for this concept that you talk is interoperability. So ultimately, the center focus is the patient. When he goes to 10 doctors, or if the doctors are going to 10 different clinics, the system is able to cope with patient being seen by 10 doctors. The system is also able to cope with one doctor visiting 10 clinics. So even if you're sitting somewhere, in a remote island and you have an internet connectivity, you can log into the system and you can see your patient's data, provided the patient has given you access to it. Nothing will be seen if the patient does not give you access, and it's in medical legal term we call it an informed consent. So without the patient's consent, data cannot be viewed. But when the patient comes to visit you for the first time, there is an informed consent which is given through the way of an OTP. A mobile message will be sent to the patient's mobile number, and there's an OTP which is generated. Only when the patient shares the OTP number, that means he has agreed to give his consent for you to view his records. It's accepted even by banks. So using this as a way of an informed consent, the patient gives you the consent to view his records, and you can view it till he decides to cancel. And with regards to your question about how it benefits the patient, let's say the patient came to your clinic and he was seen by you, and then he came to the hospital where you were working. Let's say you were working at another hospital and he came to that hospital. In the current systems right now, you sitting in hospital A would not be able to see the records you generated in hospital B. In this current system, all you have to do is enter your username, password. All the records in all the hospitals, everywhere across the board, will be visible to you. So there is no longer a wall anywhere in between, but it's highly secure.
Great.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
That's it for today. We hope all of you know about the wondrous system of ClinicJet. Thanks for watching HBW-TV, and we'll see you again. Thank you.